Different world. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of AM Minnesota. Speaking of different worlds, we're going to talk about our world, Faribault, and all the great things that make Faribault a terrific place to live and work. D. Musselman, Cheryl Freund, a couple of retired educators, are in studio to help me go down the list of some of the great things. We were hoping that Claire Drentlaw could join us, senior at Faribault High School, but unfortunately, Dee, she's not able to be here.
Right.
So that's a bummer. Has to go to school, I guess. That makes perfect sense. So Dee, I know you wanted to open up with a bit of a presentation on gratitude.
Yeah, I am so grateful to be here, Gordy, because gratitude is one of those things that helps our brains work better. Brain research out of Harvard tells us this, and oh my goodness, it is so powerful. If you're grateful, people like to be around you. It's contagious and it spreads, and we're here to put a deposit of gratitude on the air about our great community, some things, and to remind you one little thing that Martin Luther said about 500 years ago, that shed the most favorable light on every situation. You can find something to be grateful for, even in the middle of maybe something that's hard and difficult. We learn some of our best lessons that way. So enough of that. Let's get on to some of the great things in Faribault.
Now, Cheryl, how long were you a teacher in the Faribault schools?
Well, I worked with the Faribault Public Schools for almost 40 years.
Isn't that something?
I had 26 years in the classroom and about 14 as a school administrator, curriculum director.
Yeah. And you enjoyed the teaching more than the curriculum director?
I loved every day that I came to work. I could not wait to get up and go to work, regardless if it was with the students or with the faculty. I loved it.
You feel the same way, Dee?
Every day I enjoyed what I did at the Faribault Area Learning Center, night school and the alternative school. We had 3 different names over the course of 35 years. But it was a great asset to our community. I am so proud of what happened over those years and who has taken over. We're serving kids in a very unique way. That's one thing that is hugely good about our educational system, the alternative school.
They have so many options here in Faribault education. You've got Bethlehem Academy, Shattuck, and you've got the schools for the blind and the deaf, and of course the public schools. I mean, you have a lot of options.
STEM schools, the other alternative school right over here. Discovery.
Yeah.
Yes, oh my.
Nearstrand Charter.
Yeah, Nearstrand's an amazing school. Amazing school.
Another asset. I mean, it's not right in Faribault, but it's an option for Faribault
kids,
parents and kids. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And of course we've got South Central College.
Indeed. Yeah, lots of good things. Lots of good things educationally here in the community.
So that's a big asset.
Bennett and I have been traveling around the state and to other states, and the more that you visit other communities, you come back to Faribault and you see what Faribault has in comparison to so many other communities. I really think that the people in Faribault have invested in themselves in so many ways. The Paradise Center for the Arts, the Riverbend Nature Center, and just as I was coming in, something that always gives me so much joy are those murals that you see on the sides of the buildings. There's one particularly on 4th Street as you go west that looks kind of like the 1950s when I was a little kid, and I just love looking at that. That really makes my day when I see those.
Yeah, you got the
beautiful
pep parade
murals
on the side of the band shell.
Oh, and the arch,
Smith on one.
the bridge. I mean, all of that is just gorgeous. And whoever came up with those ideas. I mean, one thing that I wrote down on my list here is the people of Faribault, I believe, is what makes Faribault great.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
When you think of all the people who came up with these ideas, like C.E. Purdy, who came up with the first Big 9 Music Festival, how many people know that this was a teacher in the Faribault Public Schools who did this? Look at the Paradise Center for the Arts and Riverbend Nature Center. These things people developed. The Booster Club, and
I have to take a break here. Then we're going to come right back and talk more about all the great things that Faribault has to offer when AM Minnesota can land buildings. for quality post-frame construction. Check them out at their website, northlandbuildings.com. We'll continue our conversation about what makes Faribault such a great place to live and work right after this.
Cheap. Hey,
Let's start with Riverbend. Okay. Move to the parks.
This year to dry
Riverbend to the parks.
Let's go.
I like talking about the architecture.
And the architecture. We have to cover those three for sure. Yeah, there's a limited amount of time here. We can talk for hours.
Talk to Travis and Shannon today about a different grain dryer. 507-256-7501.
I gotta make sure I don't get windy.
A couple weeks ago on AM Minnesota, we had Becky Ford with us, and we talked about the 40 developmental assets that youth need in a community. And I brought this along with me to our show today because, well, they're the future of our community, right, Dee?
They're going to be the ones taking care of us when we're old.
Yeah, right.
They will. We need them, and we need to invest in them so that we have help when we can't do it on our own anymore.
Yeah.
And there's a day coming.
And we want them to come back to our community after they go off and become educated at colleges. Well, actually, it could stay right here in South Central College.
And many do. And many do.
Which is a good route to go. Anyway, Cheryl, I interrupted you, right? Smacked it because I had to get to that market update.
Well, I got a bit carried away probably.
No, there's nothing wrong
I get
with it.
enthusiastic, and I think people really motivate me. I was thinking of all of the folks who have invested in the community in some way, particularly the Carlanders, Tracy Ball, who've given us facilities, beautiful facilities. But I also like to mention the fact that we have a lot of young people, young leaders in our community too. You know, I think of Chad Wolf and Carrie Cruikshank Tuma. You know, these folks are people who've grow up here and they invest in the town, and we have to depend on our young leaders to further the progress that we're making in our community. So I'm really thrilled about them. But one thing we wanted to talk about is the architecture. When Ben and I have gone around the country and we say we're from Faribault, people bring up the architecture. Very few towns have 3-story buildings where the facades are still similar to when they were originally built. And this draws people to the town because it's unique.
It is. It's beautiful. I drove down Central today and I'm just going, wow, look at this. And if you haven't taken time to really meander through downtown and look at the architecture, I invite you all to come down and take a look at the beauty that's right downtown Faribault in the facades. They're stunning. Our city hall, oh my gosh, the churches around town. We have impeccable architecture here. Somebody told me that we are on the National Registry and we have more per capita than any small town in the state of Minnesota.
Oh, for sure. Yep, it's number 2 in the state actually to St. Paul. Only St. Paul has more places on the National Register of Historic Places than Faribault does.
But they have a whole lot more people.
Right.
So per capita, we're number 1.
Well, yeah, and we're the number 1. We're over Minneapolis. We're over Rochester. You can name a lot of bigger cities that we're over.
And we have the beautiful bluffs, especially now this time of the year when all the trees are turning reds and oranges and golds. It really highlights the buildings as well, especially from that east side.
Which is where Riverbend is located, and it has such a great facility there.
Oh my gosh, Riverbend,
prairie grass and bluffs and rivers and everything else.
Being out in nature and having that accessible to us within 5 minutes drive of anywhere in Faribault. My wife and I went out for a walk there yesterday. It was stunning. Sitting down by the river and listening to the river flow through there. It's so relaxing. And again, I want to encourage people to go out and enjoy nature, and you can do it all year round.
And anybody can use it. I mean, it's free. You can go taking a walk. In the winter, you can go skiing. It's a great thing for families.
Yeah. Hope people become members, though.
That helps.
That helps it
enormously. And speaking of helping, I got to brag about our night school back in the day. We, as a school, went out there to help get it off the ground. They were at a time crunch, the doors weren't ready to open, and our whole school went out there and volunteered for about a week to make it happen. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about this community. So many people give back to Faribault. And it's an amazing thing that we have here in town. All kinds of things are done because of local efforts give back. Our water park out here, right?
Yes.
That was a totally grassroots thing, right, Gordy?
Yes.
People giving to their community. And I think about John Kennedy's challenge back in the 60s. Don't ask what Faribault can do for you, but what can you do for Faribault? I switched it up a little bit, but there are people.
JFK saying that.
He didn't, yeah, but I've been working with that for years, and I have a group of kids that help me out every summer at the Garfield Memorial Garden. We've been doing it for over a dozen years. 20 kids from the high school come and help tend that garden and make it show ready all summer long. A gift to Faribault, and they understand the give factor. And then we always leave with the challenge, what would happen if everybody in Faribault would simply give 12 hours a year to their community? What a difference. And there are people that are already doing it, and I'm sure there are lots of other things that could be done by citizens.
You're saying an hour a month.
An hour a month. It could be something as simple as picking up trash somewhere. You know, nobody needs to know about it. Just do it and make Faribault a better place.
Another reason people like to, I think, settle here is that we are in a prime location. When you think about it, the Mayo Clinic, how many people have had the privilege of going to the Mayo Clinic only 50 miles away from here? People come from all over the world in the United States. And we're lucky to have a facility like that around. And our hospital that also contributes to this, to our health of our community. But also we're close to other places around the Mall of America, all the different colleges around us. So we're really in a central location that's perfect for people to come and settle in Faribault.
About an hour away from major metropolitan area.
Yeah.
And, you know, the inner cities of St. Paul, Minneapolis, less than I have to talk about the southern suburbs, you know. So that's an asset, I think, to be that close to what they have to offer and not have to live in that rat race.
Right.
Yes. You can be there in an hour, hour and a half max, anywhere in the metro. Really nice to have that accessibility.
Speaking of that, of people far away and so on, a couple of days ago, Ben and I were down to the depot, and we found out that Jeff LeBeau, who is the owner of the depot, was trained at the Greenbrier, West Virginia, which is a 5-star resort. 26 presidents of the United States have stayed there. 1778 it was built.
Wow.
And here he was trained there. We have Jeff in our town. I mean, how many people realize that? It's just amazing.
We have so many good things here in town.
Think of all the different kinds of food you can eat.
Oh my, the diversity for food. Oh my gosh, we have Mexican food, we have Thai food, Japanese. I mean, we have variety, and we have choice, and that's an amazing thing.
Not every community had the choices we have.
No, we have the Cheese Cave and,
Oh,
and you
yeah.
know, the startups, the 10,000 Drops, which is a distillery, and then we have F-Town, the brewery. Yes, that brings lots of folks into town.
It's great. The parks in our town. Oh my gosh. I have to talk about softball. Oh my. And Gil, this one's for you. Gil Truax, an amazing human being. I want to tell a story about Gil. I came to town here. I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together at the end of the paycheck. I couldn't keep my car on the road, but I had to because it was part of my responsibility. Gil would repair my car and let me pay him on time, every month without interest. Now we have people in our community like that who help one another out, and it's just great. We have that small town. I'm gonna help you out. Neighbors helping out neighbors. And that was Gil for me, way back in the day. So thanks, Gil. I know he's listening this morning. And of course, Gil and softball. Oh my. We have one of the most softball playing towns around. The facilities out at Alexander are spectacular. We have a great softball team at the high school right now. The girls softball team is one of the best in the state.
Yes, they are.
And we're looking forward to another great season on the softball fields out at Alexander.
Yeah, that was fast pitch.
Yeah.
I first moved to town. I had played some fast pitch in southeastern Minnesota where I grew up. I asked Bob Burke,
Oh, yeah.
probably within the first couple of weeks I moved here, if there was fast pitch. He kind of looked at me and chuckled a little bit and said, "Not anymore. This is a slow pitch town now. If you want to play fast pitch, you're going to have to go to Owatonna." That was when I first moved here. And I don't know if there's any fast pitch even around anymore,
Don't
for the
know.
men.
Yeah. Don't know. But getting back to Gil, one more thing about Gil. Gil, fast pitch softball player, in the 60s, pitched a perfect game. Nobody got on base. Somewhere 63, 64, something like that. Big time. Great parks here in town. Paul Panonsky at Park and Rec is amazing at getting things done. And we have so much to offer. One other thing about our city that I have to mention. When we have those snowstorms that roll through town, I am amazed at our street department. My gosh, my street, 3rd Avenue Southwest, and my alley are almost always cleared by noon as soon as they can get out and plow. You hear those guys up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning plowing our streets, getting us ready to get out of our homes and off to work. I mean, I've had people stay overnight from out of town. They go, "I can't believe your street is clear already." Kudos to our street department and their snow removal and the repair of our streets. We have good streets here in town. Good repair. A great street department.
Yeah, I've lived in Nebraska and Iowa and Missouri before I came here, and none of them can hold a candle to what the Faribault Street Department can do with snow.
Yeah.
Well, also I noticed that how the public school buildings and grounds look. Kevin Hildebrand does a super job planting trees and the flowers around the buildings. Other places I've gone, you see weeds growing up around the exterior of the buildings. Here everything is nicely mowed and manicured, and they do that with very few people on staff, yet they keep it up, and we can be very proud of our the way how hard our people work throughout the whole community. There's really a lot of pride, and even in the areas where you might not have the most fabulous homes, people still keep their homes up very nicely. They put flowers out and they have window boxes, and people have a lot of pride in their home in our community. So that's another thing that you look at, and you don't see that in many other communities that you ride around and visit.
No, one time Congress named this the City of Flying Flags, City of Faribault.
Oh, we were also,
U.S. Congress.
we were the Athens of the West also. I think about that.
Back in the day. I often thought that maybe we should use that again.
Yes.
As our
Bring
theme.
it back.
The Athens of the West.
The
I
Athens
don't know
of
if
the
many
West.
people would understand what that means nowadays.
We'd have to educate them.
We have
Gordy.
so many schools. I think that's what it is, a variety of schools, options for education in our community.
We certainly do. And we have so many people that have left a legacy, and I'm thinking about people like Bishop Whipple. Wow, what a legacy and history we have here in this community. And it still is active and alive.
I love the sign that the
Oh, yeah.
bosses have in their store. What
Yeah.
would Whipple do?
Oh, neat.
That is a great question. What do we do for our community? What do we do about our diversity? What do we do for our people? there is so much to be said about that question. Maybe sometime we should have
And I would
a
say
morning
that,
show.
and I would say that's an asset of our community, the diversity that we have here. I mean, we're a melting pot in this country, right? We're a melting pot
Absolutely.
right here in Faribault.
Absolutely we are. And I had the wonderful privilege of meeting many young people at our ALC here in town as they came through. The Cambodian crew that came through way back when, the Hispanic crew, now the Somalian folks. I have met so many fine young Somalian people. I had about 8 of them on my gardening team over at Garfield this summer, and the gratitude that those young people have for being able to live in a peaceful, safe environment. Oh my goodness. And bright minds I met all over the place.
See, we can't relate to that.
No, you can't relate to living in a war zone.
Also, I think the people who were able to come to the United States and leave these kinds of terrible situations that they might have experienced, they tend to be the best that you can get, because they've had to work hard. They've had to use all of their gifts to come to the United States, and they then give these gifts back to us. So we are getting the very best that these other countries are losing. Too bad for those countries, but good for us.
How about our local iconic businesses like Burkhartsmeyer and Erickson's, locally owned for many years?
Oh,
The
and
woolen mill. How about that? The other day we were out
yeah.
of town, and some lady said, do we still have the Faribault woolen mill? And I said, yes, absolutely. And they were going to have another sale. Come on down. And they were just thrilled to hear that it is still going after all of these years, and that it starts with the original process, with the wool, all the way to the final product. And you can actually see that in the tours. So they were fascinated by that idea.
Absolutely. And, of course, right here, KDHL, going to be 70 years old in January.
Yeah.
Wow. And this is classic Americana right here, KDHL. And Gordy, thanks to you and all that you do for the sports announcing and, this morning show. You're a rock here, and KDHL has been part of that for 70 years now.
Isn't that amazing?
It is. It is amazing. I'm old school. I like this stuff. So thanks, Gordy.
Well, good local community radio. That's what it's all about. That's what we think, anyway.
Absolutely.
Bring you the local news, local sports, local weather. You can get all that information right here. You must have a couple of other things on your cards there, Cheryl.
No, but what I was going to say about you, Gordy, is you listen. I've heard other radio stations, and the person who's in charge of it is talking all the time and doesn't let the guests say anything. It was you.
Well, I've always believed that they tune in to hear the guests. They don't tune in to hear me.
Yeah, so you do that, and I really appreciate that.
Well, getting back to this whole idea of gratitude, it's really interesting how we're reporting things that we're grateful for here, right? Well, the more you engage in gratitude, the more gratitude grows. If you start being grateful, brain research is real clear, the more you see to be grateful for. Oh my gosh, it's a personal practice, it's a social practice, and if you're of the spiritual bent, it's also a spiritual practice. It is good on multiple levels to express gratitude. So for those of you who are out there, I just invite all of you to start this practice of being grateful, looking around and seeing all the good things here in Faribault, and you will begin to see more and more and more as you open your eyes with the gift of gratitude.
Tell us about your 5 elements.
Oh, there are 5 principles that turn the learning centers of the brain on. 2 of the 5 are gratitude. A today gratitude, something that happened from the time you got out of bed till the moment in time you think about it. Really a good personal practice. A historical gratitude, reflecting on something that happened in your life that you're still grateful for, like maybe your grandmother or whatever it is. Exercise, some form of meditation where you simply get alone with yourself and quiet your mind and your heart, and then random acts of kindness. If you engage in those 5 principles as a personal practice, the learning centers of your brain have the potential of being turned on by as much as 30% more. 30% more. And they can see this with brain scans and all this sophisticated brain imaging machinery they have out there. Maybe that's not the right term, but that's what we know now. Gratitude is huge.
Sounds like it.
Isn't there too something about virtues? Some kind of a project.
Oh
in,
yeah, Virtues
the
Project at the
community.
high school.
Yes, and throughout the community, I think this all ties in together. Having gratefulness for what we see around us and the people around us, and it builds on those virtues.
Certainly does.
Yep, for the 40 developmental assets, they have items listed under, this is for kids now, support, we need to support our Faribault youth, empowerment,
Absolutely.
boundaries and expectations, constructive use of time, positive identity, social competencies, positive values, and a commitment to learning. You know, the old saying was you can't teach morals in school.
Yeah, you can. By example.
Well, we've plumb run out of time.
Well, thank you, Gordy.
We'll have to have you on again sometime.
Thank you, Gordy, very much.
And again, I would suggest people, you come up with some ideas for assets. I have some listed on our website, Plugging Today's Show. I'd love to have you add to the list. I just put a handful on there that came off the top of my bald head. Just add to the list if you would, please, and we'll see what kind of a list we can come up with.
I'm sure it will grow and grow and grow.
So am I. Thanks again, Dee. Appreciate it. Dee Musselman, Cheryl Freund, a couple of retired educators on AM Minnesota today. Tomorrow, David Preisler will be Jerry's guest. He's the head of the Pork Producers Association. So Jerry will be talking hogs tomorrow. There's a joke in there somewhere, but I'm not going to. Anyway, you're in tune to KDHLAM in Faribault, Minnesota. Get out and make this a fantastic day.